Elon Musk reveals insane new SpaceX telescope. In a tweet on Wednesday, Musk suggested that the ship itself could serve as a structure for a new giant telescope, 10 times the resolution of NASA's Hubble, an indication that a billionaire still has very big ideas for a spacecraft. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Let's dive deep into the suggestions of Elon Musk. After the Apollo missions, the SpaceX spacecraft could bring the first astronauts to the lunar surface, clearing our planet's increasingly dense orbit and possibly even helping create cities on Mars. Now SpaceX CEO Elon Musk says it could be used to bring astronomical observations into the 21st century. According to Musk, the idea of turning the Starcraft spaceship into a large space telescope was first proposed to him by astrophysicists at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, Seoul Premier. The news comes after NASA's Hubble Space Telescope had to shut down research due to a software bug last month. NASA scientists desperately needed a solution to get the telescope back on track. In an early tweet, Musk outlined plans for a Mars-related rocket that could act as a special option in space, which could be recharged in orbit and allow SpaceX to launch heavier payloads to distant targets, including the Moon and Mars. A chart released today by NASA's launcher compares the performance of various rockets, including SpaceX Falcon Heavy. According to the feature, SpaceX cost version of the Falcon Heavy, a high-powered version of the company's Falcon 9 rocket, and could send more than 26,000 pounds to Mars. However, the spacecraft could increase that number almost tenfold in development, does according to plan. SpaceX still has a lot to do before the first spacecraft goes into orbit, let alone what could turn into a giant telescope there. The first prototype could make its first attempt at orbit in the coming weeks, with dispersion planned in the Pacific off the coast of Hawaii. But once established as a stable platform, Starship, like its predecessor Falcon 9, has the ability to push the boundaries of astronomy by continuing Hubble's legacy into orbit. When a Twitter made a request about the SpaceX spacecraft using the @ChrisGNSF handle, Elon Musk responded to a tweet from a YouTube star and astronomer, Scott Manley. Have you looked at a variant of Starship that is essentially the Probe 2? The netizen asked on Twitter. A reply from Elon Musk came soon after he gave everyone an insight on how they feels about the idea. Yeah, that would be cool, the SpaceX CEO said in reply. Musk added the idea of using ship itself as a structure for a new giant telescope that's 10 times X Hubble resolution. Users have raised other questions, including whether it's possible to place scientific instruments on spacecraft instead of having to build two separate things. Users also mentioned that it will reduce the cost of space travel quite a bit. Spaceships can increase their capacity almost tenfold. However, SpaceX is yet to work on its spacecraft's first orbital flight, much less turn it into a giant telescope more powerful than Hubble. SpaceX plans to conduct an orbital test of the Starship later this month, while SpaceX contract with NASA stipulates taking astronauts to the moon at some point. The company led by Elon Musk must first approve they can even send a spacecraft to the moon by landing. NASA is required a test flight to fully check out all systems of the landing in a lunar surface prior to our final destination mission. Lisa Watson Morgan, Human Landing Systems HLS program manager of NASA, said during a Friday conference call. While Starship may now be NASA's first choice, other companies that previously fought for space may still be bidding on future moon landing contracts with the agency. The Starship system is a fully deployable two-stage super heavy launch vehicle developed for SpaceX and since August 2021 has become the world's tallest and most powerful rocket, with more than double the traction ahead of the Saturn V. The system consists of a booster stage called Super Heavy, and the second stage is also called Starship. Unlike the traditional second stage launcher, the second stage of the Starship was designed as a long-range cargo and passenger spacecraft, as well as a landing vehicle. It is also designed to be recoverable. If this goal is achievable, the Starship system could be the first fully usable launcher. Development of the Starship system vehicle began in 2016 as a self-financed private space project, 4 years after work began on the Raptor rocket engine, which powers both stages. Summer testing of the Starship's second phase began in 2019 with low-speed takeoffs and landings that continued through sync tests until May 2021, when the Starship SN-15 became the first prototype to successfully complete high-altitude flight tests and to be recovered. Starting August 2021, SpaceX plans orbit test flights of the entire two-stage Starship system, but with what appears to be a required period of at least 30 days from public comment and analysis of those comments. Launches are unlikely for months. The Starship system is designed to transfer passengers and cargoes to destinations, including low orbit on Earth, Moon, and Mars. It is an integral part of SpaceX's mission to establish a permanent human presence on Mars. Both the top-tier Starship and the superpower amplifier are constructed with a 9-meter, 30-foot diameter stainless steel hull. In April 2021, NASA selected the modified Starship system as one of these potential concepts for lunar landing system designs to secure funding for an initial 10-month design phase for NASA signed contract with SpaceX to develop a modified crew for the Starship spacecraft to serve as our lunar landers in the Artemis program. The upper stage of the Starship is intended to serve as a second stage to achieve orbital velocity during the start of the Earth, for the use of space as long-range spacecraft in orbit and as a SSTO, single stage to orbit, for launches from Mars, the Moon, and possibly on another planet or moon. This is a contrast to most previous rocket and spacecraft launch projects. The spacecraft will re-enter Earth's atmosphere at orbit speed and land vertically, with the aim of making it usable again quickly without a complete overhaul. According to Musk, if the Starship were used to launch at space orbit (BEO) to Mars, the operation of the entire expedition system would necessarily involve the product of fuel on the Martian surface. This is necessary for the return and reuse of spacecraft to keep costs as low as possible. Lunar targets, circular flights, orbits, and landings will be possible without lunar fuel deposits as long as the spacecraft refuels in high elliptical orbits prior to the start of the lunar transit. Some lunar flights will be possible without orbiting refueling, as the project's expensive lunar mission profile shows. The Raptor's methane-oxygen engine will be the primary propulsion system for both stages of the Starship system. The second phase of the Starship will use 3 sea-level optimized Raptor engines and 3 vacuum-optimized Raptor engines. It is planned that the motor at the sea level will be identical to the Super Heavy motor amplifier. Space transport is expected to use a vacuum optimization version of the Raptor engine to optimize specific momentum to about 380 seconds, 3.7 km per second, 8,300 miles per hour. The total thrust of the Starship will be around 14 mm, 1400 TF. The Starship is designed to use slipcases with a hot gas pressure control system, RCS, with Mexox gas for position control, including a final lift maneuver before landing second stage belly for the stern for the stability during landing in high winds up to 60 km an hour, 37 miles per hour. Early prototypes used a cold nitrogen gas engine, which was significantly less mass effective, but was stable to support the prototype's early test flights. Elon Musk plans for SpaceX Starship. Elon Musk's recent comments about turning SpaceX into a giant space observatory added to the list of potential uses for the spacecraft after its launch. Futurism says the spacecraft is already planned to take astronauts to the moon, clean up space debris, and even help create a human city on Mars. While the idea of establishing a human colony on Mars may raise doubts, Elon Musk said he wants to achieve with the Starship before 2030. He has also said he wants to create a self-sustaining Mars base. The success of all these plans remain to be seen, but where there's no denying that SpaceX is working hard to make it happen. There were hiccups along the way, like the explosion of some prototype spacecraft. In March, Elon Musk and SpaceX successfully launched a prototype, Starship SN11, but it was destroyed on landing. 2 months later, Starship SN15 successfully landed. SpaceX has made great strides in developing its Starship spacecraft platform. While all 4 full-size prototypes exploded into giant fireballs, the space company had some ambitious plans and promised that Starship's orbit would take place before the end of the year. Well, this was all about today's video. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. See you next time. Thanks for watching.